Hi, everyone. Welcome to Research on the Road. This is a very important week for our live streams because not only are we featuring this weekend's City Nature Challenge, an international effort to find local wildlife and contribute to community science, but we are introducing our newest member, Chelsea Martin. She's been working with us at Research on the Road for a while, but this is our introductory video to bring her onto the team and have her introduce herself to you guys. So Chelsea's going to talk to us about the City Nature Challenge and explain the process of it and how you can become involved. Chelsea?
All right. Hi, guys. Like Emily said, my name is Chelsea Martin. Just a brief introduction. I am a PhD student at Loma Linda University, just like everybody else. And yeah, Emily and I got involved with the City Nature Challenge just last year, which was really exciting for us. And this was actually the first time that the Inland Empire participated in the City Nature Challenge. It was a little disappointing because, of course, nobody could predict that the pandemic was going to happen. And so all of the fun events that we had with people going out and hiking and observing wildlife unfortunately got canceled. But despite that, the City Nature Challenge continued, and there were a lot of people that went out and made observations. So what is the City Nature Challenge? Basically, it's a BioBlitz event. So what a BioBlitz is basically, it's this big event where everybody goes out into an area and they make as many observations of plants and animals as possible. And then scientists use that data to learn various things about the environment. And so the City Nature Challenge is a big global effort for everybody to get out and make those observations. And anybody can participate as long as you have a phone or a camera. So I'm just going to show a little introductory video to the City Nature Challenge, and it kind of is a tutorial as well on how you can use your phone to participate. Okay, so let me share screen here.
Do you enjoy spending time outside exploring and observing nature? Would you like to become a community scientist? Then join the Inland Empire in the City Nature Challenge as we compete with cities across the world to have the greatest number and most diverse observations of wildlife from our community. The collected data is then uploaded into an international database of wildlife that will be used by scientists and naturalists to help understand nature in our cities. This event takes place from April 30th to May 3rd, and you only need a phone or camera to participate. To begin, you first need to download the Inaturalist app onto your phone and create a user account. No smartphone? No problem. You can also add your photos directly to the Inaturalist website. Observations can be added by opening up the app and clicking on Observation. You can use pictures you have already taken or add a new photo using the camera option in the app. If you would like to add multiple photos to the observation, click the plus and add photos from the camera roll or by taking an additional picture. The more pictures you can get, the better chance of getting a proper identification and even earning the badge Research Grade on your submission. Next, click on What Did You See? The app will offer its best identification of the organism in the photo, and it is helpful to pick the best selection. Work with the app and give your best guess at identifying the organism. The great thing about iNaturalist is the community involvement. Your fellow naturalists are there to follow up and confirm or better identify your organism. If you are concerned about people seeing the location that your photo was taken, you can click on Geoprivacy and change it to Obscured. If you do so, the location will still show up on the map, but its true location will be obscured. Want to become an expert user of the app? Here are some do's and don'ts of picture taking. Do take pictures of wild plants, animals, and fungi. Don't take pictures of cultivated plants or domesticated animals. This is not helpful to researchers. Do make an attempt at identification of the organism in your picture. Do try to take focused and clear pictures that are zoomed in on the organism if possible. Don't make multiple submissions of the same animal. Do indicate what you are taking a picture of if there are multiple organisms in the image. Do go outside and have fun. Scientists will be using the data that you collected to study a variety of things, including identifying the spread of invasive species and looking for the arrival of new invasive species, estimating biodiversity, finding populations of rare organisms, and tracking seasonal migrations. The City Nature Challenge isn't the only time that you can use the app. Your help is valuable for all sorts of projects, be it helping hikers find cool local species or even contributing to published scientific research. Every time you add an entry, you help build the database. You can even browse specific projects that you would like to join. Hopefully you decide to get outside and join us the weekend of April 30th to May 3rd. Go on a hike, spend some time at your local park, or just take a step out your door and make some observations while you spend time with nature.
So yeah, that was just a brief introduction of how you can use your iPhone or just your smartphone in general to participate in the City Nature Challenge this weekend. Okay, so I'm also just going to kind of give you guys a brief, I'm going to give you guys a history of the City Nature Challenge because this was actually a kind of a recent event that has occurred. So basically, the City Nature Challenge began in 2016. And there were only 2 cities that participated. So it was San Francisco and Los Angeles. And during that year, there weren't that many people that participated. It was just the 2 cities. They had 1,000 people that participated, but they almost had 20,000 observations, which is pretty awesome. And they identified 2,500 species. So since then, things have continued to steadily grow. In 2017, more cities in the US took part. And that year they had over 4,000 participants. They had 125 observations made, 8,600 species, and 392 of those were endangered or threatened, which is really cool. And that year, Dallas-Fort Worth found the most, they had the most observations. And Houston had the most species observed, but Los Angeles had the most participants. So that's the cool thing about the City Nature Challenge is that it's kind of like a fun, friendly competition between, different cities, and not only in the US, as it's grown, it can be around the world. So in 2018, it started to go global. We had cities in Europe, in Asia, in South America that began to participate, which is awesome. They had 17,000 participants, 441,000 observations, 18,000 species observed, 600 of them were endangered or threatened. And that year, San Francisco won. Won everything. Okay, and then we had in 2019, many more cities around the world observed. We have some in Africa now, many more in South America and Europe, which is really awesome. And that year there were 35,000 participants, over almost 1 million observations made, 31,000 species, and 111 of them were rare or endangered. And that year, Cape Town, South Africa won for most observations and most species, but San Francisco had the most participants. So 2020, that was the year of the pandemic. Even more cities participated. As the Inland Empire, we were one of them. Unfortunately, there were a little less observations made, but I think that's understandable. But still, it was 800,000. So, despite the pandemic, people still went out, they went hiking, they spent time with nature, and they made observations, which is amazing. And there were 32,000 species documented, 1,300 rare and endangered, and 41,000 people participated. So that's pretty amazing. And I think there's a lot of really cool aspects of the City Nature Challenge that kind of go beyond just people becoming citizen scientists. It allows people to, connect with nature in their urban and metro areas. And, it can also allow people to kind of connect with each other and form this community, which is really amazing. And there's the science aspect as well, where scientists, different managers of wildlife can use the information that the community scientists gather to kind of understand what's going on in urban centers, which is really important, especially in regards to invasive species. And, it can just help grow volunteers that want to participate in doing things out in nature. And it allows us to better document biodiversity in the world, which I think is just awesome. And it's a fun, friendly competition. I agree. I had a lot of fun competing last year, and I'm really excited to compete again this year. So this is just showing, kind of the grow over time, which is pretty cool. Again, so there's been a steady increase from 1,000 observers to 41,000. And the really cool thing too is that even though we had the pandemic last year, we still had 9,000 more people participate than last year. And we still had more species observed. There was just a few less observations. So hopefully we'll continue to grow this year. And this is all the cities that will be participating in the 2021 challenge. And here's just some pictures of people around the world that participated, different cities. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we can't go out and have these like guided hikes where we take people and we all go out together and observe the species and make the observations. But hopefully once things continue to get better, maybe next year we'll be able to do that with everybody again. And the other really cool thing about the City Nature Challenge is that over time, people use the app, right? They use the Inaturalist app during the City Nature Challenge, but then they continue to use it after the challenge is over. And so even though the app has been around since, the mid 2000s, 2010, 2009, its growth has continued. And now we have more and more people using it and continuing to use it because of the City Nature Challenge.
So just a point to make on that is it's interesting the history of iNaturalist and how that kind of corresponds to how the City Nature Challenge has progressed and how it's become so much more popular through the years. Is that it was initially just a small app that they developed at UC Berkeley, and then because it got so popular, it got picked up by the California Academy of Sciences up there in San Francisco in 2015. And then by 2017, National Geographic took notice. And so you can see like it's become not just a local UC Berkeley initiative, it expanded to a San Francisco initiative and then worldwide thanks to National Geographic. So it's great to see that that's something that starts small and it can progress like that and expand and be all inclusive.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so just briefly, these are like some cool observations that people have made from using the app. So this is like a rare orchid that was found in Colombia. It's the first record at iNaturalist, and it's like the only record still that's been observed. So it's a really great way to identify rare species that are difficult to find. And it can also be used to find species that were once thought to be no longer in an area or maybe even extinct in an area. So this is a red-faced warbler. And this bird was last seen in LA in 2005. And in 2019, somebody observed it, put the record on iNaturalist, and now we know that that species is still around. So that's really amazing. It can also be used to find new populations, which is cool. So this is a pitcher plant in Florida. And this person made this observation and discovered a completely new population of these plants. And so now they can try to conserve this population as well. Here's a first record of a small insect in New Zealand and the Southern Hemisphere. I'm not sure if this is an invasive one or not, but using the app for invasives has been really important because, oftentimes invasive animals come in urban areas, and scientists aren't always in these urban areas. We're not going to see those things, but people that live there do. And so taking those observations, putting them on iNaturalists, that allows scientists to know who's coming in and invading, and they can even potentially use it to like track where they're coming in from and stuff. It's really interesting and really important in regards to invasive biology. Here's another one. This was in Oakland, California, first record of the species in the United States. Here's its little head. And then, just fun observations in general. So this was an owl that took up a nest on a kind of a windowsill in New York City. So they got to kind of watch that grow, which is fun. This one was kind of interesting too. So this is a kite, which is a bird. And somebody observed it. It had captured an iguana, and then they observed it dropping the iguana. So here it's falling through the sky. and it landed on the ground and seems fine. So good for the
Well,
iguana.
there's another point on invasive species. I mean, not only are you documenting the presence of an invasive species in Florida, but you're actually showing it being transported by a native species.
That's true. And that might indicate predation as well. Maybe that kite, obviously it was trying to eat the iguana. So, but yes, iguanas are very invasive in Florida. Florida's got a lot of problems with invasive animals, unfortunately. And then just more cool observations. So, a leopard in Cape Town, some cool insects, orcas. This is really cool. The bioluminescence in San Diego on the waves. So yeah, it's just fun to use in general. Like ever since I participated in the City Nature Challenge last year, that was the first time I'd ever heard about the app or the challenge. I have been continuing to use it, and I just really enjoy, when I'm out on a hike, I see something cool, I can take a picture, and I'm contributing to community science, which is just awesome. So anyway, Emily, did you want to share some stuff about the website version?
Sure, yeah. I want to just make a note on how the species that we often overlook, the ones that are right in our backyard, are something that you don't have to go out and take a hike necessarily. There's wildlife all around you, and so I think plants and insects are often overlooked. Maybe you're not looking up and seeing all the birds that are flying over, or noticing that there's so many different species and how much diversity there is in your backyard. So I just want to share a little bit on our website, Research on the Road. Okay, so here's iNaturalist. So with iNaturalist, one of the programs that they promote are called Bio Blitzes, and Chelsea mentioned that previously, and it's kind of like Pokemon Go in real life. You can go out and you can try to catch them all and find them all and document them all, and so it's typically something that you would allot a time period, and you would kind of sweep the area and try to document everything that you can find in that area, every species. And usually you can do that in groups. You can do it as a sweep, but you can do it as an individual as well. Like, we're still social distancing. It might not be feasible to go out in a hiking group, but hiking can be a solitary activity, and iNaturalist allows you to work with a community even if you are out in the field alone. But in your own backyard, you can find certain things that iNaturalist will recognize for you, and you might not realize. Uh, well, this was in my backyard, but that's not typical. So iNaturalist will tell you what these things are. So I just saw a slug in my yard, and iNaturalist tells me that that is a milky slug, and on top of that, it tells me that it is actually an invasive pest that's from North Africa and Europe and shouldn't have been in my backyard. So it's not something I would have looked twice at previously. It's just a slug. But because I'm iNaturalist, I was able to find out what it is and more information about it. So these beetles, these worms that are just crawling through our dirt, sure, we might notice them every once in a while, but take some time to actually look closer at them and learn more about them, because every insect and every animal species and every plant species has some interesting qualities to it that are fun to learn and fun to participate in, and it's cool to know what's in your backyard. So development is another thing, is that even though we live in a suburban or an urban environment, there's a lot going on around us. There's still species, and birds, of course, use human facilities and infrastructure. You'll see them perched on a sprinkler head like this Phoebe here, or on a wire like this northern flicker, and just flying overhead. Plus these local plant species are it's springtime, they're flowering, they're beautiful, and take a closer look, see what the plant itself is. The flowers are pretty, but they're not always flowering, but they might be an interesting plant to learn about. And even moss and lichens, those are really cool species. And you might learn something about how plants and fungus are actually in a symbiotic relationship, and that's what lichen is. It looks like a crusty stain on a rock, but it's actually a living species. And not just that, it's a living interaction between species. So a couple of ideas for documenting wildlife. Of course, you can do a BioBlitz. You can just go at it and find everything you can, set a time for yourself, or you don't have to necessarily sweep your entire yard. You can set a species limit, and you can say, oh, I'm going to go out and find 20 species and just take as much time as you need. But one idea that I tried last year is to set up a white sheet with a very bright spotlight on it. And that attracts insects. If it's a warm night, that'll attract a ton of insects. And so last year it was a little bit cooler than I would have liked. It wasn't optimal, but I wanted to do this during the City Nature Challenge. And I was still able to find species from multiple different groups of insects. So, you expect the mosquitoes and the moths and the beetles, but there were also grasshoppers and katydids. The fruit flies showed up, which I thought was interesting. I didn't have the best camera for it, but even still, Inaturalist was able to tell me what these species were. And so again, back to the urban wildlife, they're actually called synergic species. So it just means that they're species that do well with people. And so, of course, we think of pigeons. Those are invasive here, but they're not going anywhere. In certain areas, there's animals that just interact with people, that work with people, and that actually do better with people, such as bats and raccoons and possums. Those are synergic species. So there's life around, and there's definitely, even if you're not seeing those big charismatic coyotes and raccoons wandering around, there's definitely life there, and you should look a little bit closer and learn more about it.
Something I do want to add, if you are wanting to go out in your backyard and do a BioBlitz, but you're concerned about people seeing where you live, we said it in the video, but I'll say it again, you can change the location of your observations to obscured. It basically just kind of like takes a 10-mile range where the point like actual location could be, but it won't indicate where it was actually taken. So you can kind of stay anonymous in that. I know when I take pictures in my backyard, that's what I do because I don't want people to know where I live.
That's also really important if it's a species that is protected or that is vulnerable. You don't necessarily want to broadcast. Everyone has access to this app, and it's great that everyone does. Everyone can work together. But you don't want to highlight any kind of issues that might arise from that. So if it's a species that's typically hunted, or if it's a very well-known endangered species, that's awesome that you were able to see it. And you should really tell everyone about it, because everyone should know that it's there. But maybe they don't need to know exactly where. Maybe if you use an obscured position, they can still know it's in this area of Southern California. It's still useful to researchers, but it's not going to draw people to that location to potentially harm what you were looking at.
Yeah, that's a really good and important point, is to be mindful when you're posting observations. Should we show the website? Would you like to do that? Or I think, yeah, it's important to show the website is much more powerful than the app, but they're both connected. Right. So you can make observations on your phone and then go to the website later if you want. That's often what I do, because it's really easy to make the observations on your phone because the location is already linked to the photo.
All right, so back to the iNaturalist website. Again, if it's easier if you have a smartphone in your pocket, just pull it out, take a picture, and upload it straight to the app. But if you don't have a smartphone, that doesn't mean you can't participate. You can take pictures with your digital camera, any camera that you want, as long as you can get a digital version of it and add the observation to the site, you are still participating. And so with the website, it's still fairly simple. It's pretty straightforward. So you would just log in on your account. You can either go up here to upload, or you can go to add observations. So if I do that, say I want to choose a file, this is not my image, but it is an image of organisms. Just use that as an example. These are barnacles of the Chelanibia genus. So maybe I don't know that. Maybe I want to see that a little bit bigger. So these you can kind of see on there. They're on the back of a turtle, and they have identified them for me as a turtle barnacle, Chelanibia tesudinaria, which, yes, that is what it is. So I will not be uploading that because, again, that's not my image. But I would just go through the motion, say, yeah, I'm pretty sure that is what it is, agree to it, and move on with my observation. But I can also click here and take me to the turtle barnacle page. So do I want to learn more about this turtle barnacle? Because there's tons of information on it. You can learn all about it. Everyone wants to learn everything about barnacles because that's the best. So we would come back to here. I would say I found it, the image itself would most likely have your location data saved into it if you took it with a digital camera or especially a cell phone. This one apparently is from Haifa, Israel. So yes, there are sea turtles everywhere in the world, and this particular image of barnacles on the back of a sea turtle was taken off the coast of Israel. And so that's awesome to know. This is a stock image online. So then if I want to add any notes, I could say I found this on the back of a green turtle. See Midas. And I could say the location is public, but if I don't want people to know that, I can say it's obscured. And it's not captive or cultivated. I can add it to specific projects, specific fields. And so you can do all the things that the app allows you to do on the website. So that's the important takeaway here, is that you can make additions without having to download the app. You just need an account, and you need a computer, and you need an image, and you can work from there.
And the website, it kind of offers much more of the community aspect than the app does, because there's almost like a social media aspect to it. Because
That's true.
people have their profiles, and you can put a bio on there if you want about yourself. You can follow people and see what they're observing. You can join projects. You can browse different projects in your area, which is really cool. You can look at maps. They're big. I mean, there are maps on the app as well, but like if you want to see like a map of like everywhere you've seen observations or everywhere other people have, you can do that on the website as well. So there's just like more fun things to do on the website. But again, you don't have to use the website if you don't want to. But if you want to learn and explore, it's a fun place to go and do that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing that I wanted to note was that yes, a picture of the organism is ideal and awesome, but don't neglect signs of life. There, you can choose, you can upload track or scat, burrows, nests. You can any indication that some living species has been there. You can actually upload that, and you can add that, and people can, if you're wondering what species of bird occupies this nest in your tree, but you haven't seen the bird, you've only seen the nest, you could upload that and ask questions, and the community would probably be able to direct you in the right direction. Say what your species of bird is based on your location and how the nest looks. So there's a lot of information that can be gleaned off of the website and the, like you said, social media aspect of it, because there's a lot of very knowledgeable people using the website, and they seem like they're pretty open to sharing about it. So that's why they use the website. They're there to learn and to contribute just as well.
And going off of that, you can also upload like calls. So you can upload audio as well, which is really cool. So if you hear like a frog calling or a bird calling and you can't see it, because sometimes it's hard if they're hiding in the trees or they're down in the leaf litter, you can just record that and upload it, and people can identify species based off of calls. Unfortunately, there's no video option yet, which I hope is the next step, because I think it would be a cool and easy way to, make behavioral observations that scientists can do. But they're not there yet, unfortunately. So just pictures and sounds for now.
All right. I think that wraps up our presentation pretty well. For those of you interested in participating, send us a message on the Facebook page or via the website. That'll take you through our email. You can contact us anytime. We'd be happy to hear about your observations. We'd be happy to answer questions that you have about participating. And we look forward to hearing from you, and hope that you will choose to join in on the City Nature Challenge, or just to get started on iNaturalist in general, because we can work together on iNaturalist, and we can see your observations and you can see our observations, and it's a great community effort. So we hope you'll join us, and thanks for tuning in.
Bye, guys.
Bye.